You keep choosing people who feel like puzzles, the kind that keeps you up at 3 in the morning analyzing text messages, convinced that if you could just decode the right pattern, everything would click into place. Everyone around you sees it. They ask why you do this to yourself. And you don't have an answer that feels true enough to say out loud, because the truth is, you're not entirely sure yourself. You just know that when you meet someone emotionally unavailable, something in your chest recognizes them. This isn't about bad judgment. It's about your nervous system running on a program it installed before you were old enough to question it. You're not broken. This pattern you keep repeating, this magnetic pull toward people who can't quite meet you where you are, it makes perfect sense. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is to seek out what feels familiar, even when familiar hurts. Because to your nervous system, familiar equals survivable, and survivable is more important than happy. When you meet someone who triggers that pull, your brain doesn't register this as a red flag. It registers it as home. Your brain releases dopamine when you're uncertain about a reward, not when you get it, when you might get it. This is the same pattern that makes gambling addictive. That uncertainty floods your system with dopamine. The possibility feels better than the guarantee. So when someone texts you for 3 days, then goes silent, when they're vulnerable one night and distant the next morning, when they make you feel chosen, then act like you're an afterthought, your brain is lighting up. The inconsistency isn't a bug. To your reward system, it's a feature. The person who's steady and available, predictable, safe, boring to your dopamine receptors, the one who keeps you guessing, they're the slot machine your brain wants to keep playing. But here's what nobody tells you. If this were just brain chemistry, everyone would fall for the same people. But you have a specific type, and that specificity isn't random. It's a blueprint. Between birth and age 7, your brain was taking notes. It watched how the people who were supposed to love you actually showed up.
I wonder what's in there. Hello?
Was that love consistent? Did it show up reliably? Or did you learn to read moods and adjust yourself to keep it coming? Your child brain didn't judge this. It just absorbed it as data. This is what connection feels like. This is normal. If that love was inconsistent, if it depended on your behavior or someone else's mood, your nervous system learned something crucial. It learned that love is something you earn. That uncertainty means you should try harder. That emotional distance is a challenge to overcome. And most importantly, anxiety and love go together. If you grew up with love that made you anxious about whether it would still be there tomorrow, then a relationship that doesn't make you anxious doesn't feel like love. It feels like something's missing. The emotionally unavailable person feels like home. Not because home was bad, but because home was uncertain. Your nervous system keeps trying to return you to what it knows. But there's another layer. This isn't just about how you learned to receive love. It's about what you learned you had to be to deserve it. What did you learn you had to do to be worth staying for? If love felt conditional when you were young, you probably internalized a belief so deep you might not even recognize it as a belief. You might just experience it as truth. You are valuable when you are needed. You are lovable when you are useful. You have to prove you're worth choosing. The emotionally unavailable person is perfect for that belief system. They're a project, someone you can prove your worth to by being different from everyone else who gave up on them. The one who finally gets them. The one who sees their potential. And in that role, you feel valuable, needed, like you matter. The tragedy is you're trying to earn love from someone who can't give it. Not because you're not enough, but because they're not available. You're playing a game where the rules guarantee you'll lose. And there's something else. The emotionally unavailable person isn't just familiar. They're a promise of transformation. Every story you've consumed has taught you this. The closed-off person who finally opens up for the right one. The walls that come down for true love. And when it happens, when they finally choose you, it will mean you were special, worthy, the exception. If you can love them into wholeness, it will prove you are always enough. But here's the devastating truth. Sometimes people do grow. Sometimes the emotionally unavailable person does eventually become available. Just usually not on your timeline, and often not for you. You can be the right person at the wrong time. You can do everything right and still not get the outcome you want. Not because you failed, but because other people's growth isn't your responsibility and isn't within your control. The fantasy of transformation is seductive because it puts you in the driver's seat. It makes you feel like if you just love hard enough, you can control the outcome. But real intimacy requires two people who are both ready, both available, both willing. And that's not something you can create alone. Once you understand the psychology behind this attraction, you start to see the pattern everywhere, not just in romantic relationships. Maybe you're drawn to friends who are emotionally inconsistent. Maybe you overfunction at work for bosses who underappreciate you. Maybe you stay in situations where you're constantly proving your value instead of having it assumed. Because this isn't really about unavailable people. It's about a template for connection that your nervous system learned early and keeps trying to replay. It's about seeking familiar patterns of love, even when those patterns hurt. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You notice the moment the dopamine kicks in. You recognize the anxiety spiral. You catch yourself making excuses for behavior you wouldn't tolerate from anyone else. You see yourself crafting the narrative where you're the exception, the one who understands, the one who can handle what others couldn't. And you might feel frustrated with yourself, angry that you keep doing this, ashamed that even knowing all of this, you still feel drawn to the same patterns. You learned that your value was something you demonstrated through effort, because unconditional acceptance wasn't something you experienced. So when you find yourself drawn to someone who's emotionally unavailable, or when you catch yourself making excuses for inconsistent behavior, or when you realize you're trying to earn love from someone who should be freely giving it, you don't need judgment. You need compassion. You need to recognize that part of you is just trying to resolve something that happened a long time ago. Part of you is hoping that this time, if you just love well enough, the story will end differently. And maybe it will. Maybe one day you'll find yourself genuinely attracted to someone who's emotionally available, consistent, and secure. Maybe your nervous system will slowly rewire. Maybe the template will update. Or maybe it won't. Maybe you'll always feel that initial pull toward people who are complicated, who need to be understood, who make you work for their attention. And if that's true, you're still not broken. You're not broken for being drawn to people who feel familiar, even when familiar is painful. You're not weak for hoping someone will change. You're not foolish for believing your love might be enough. You're just human. You're just trying to connect. You're just working with the template you inherited, doing your best to find love in a world that didn't always show you what healthy love looks like. And that's not something you need to fix. That's just something you need to understand. So if you recognize yourself in this, take a breath. You're not alone in this pattern. You're not uniquely damaged. You're not incapable of healthy love. You're just someone whose nervous system learned a certain language of connection. And now you get to decide if you want to keep speaking only that language, or if you want to slowly learn new ones. Either way, you're enough. You always have been. You just might not have learned that yet. And now you get to decide if you want to keep speaking only that language, or if you want to slowly learn new ones. Either way, you're enough. You always have been. You just might not have learned that yet.